Chair recognizes the honourable member for Kalani.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I have a few documents here that I would table at the end of my debate to back up as backup documents for whatever I may say. But Madam Speaker, I rise today to give my contribution to the Apprentice Bill 2024. And once again, Madam Speaker, I plead with the government to give more advance notice as to the legislation to be debated in the House, because the Davis administration clearly does not have a substantive long-term agenda. It meanders from week to week as to what will be on the agenda of the House. Indeed, Madam Speaker, it seems that House meetings are a nuisance to the Prime Minister, who prefers to be on an airplane flying to his next sightseeing trip. Further, will the Prime Minister please let the House and the country know which members of his cabinet and government have not filed their public disclosures as they are required to do so by law? Madam Speaker, the bill repeals and replaces the Apprenticeship Act. It makes new provision for the regulation of the training of apprentices through a new national apprenticeship program. Via this bill, apprentices will be trained through public-private partnership aimed at building skills and capacity in the labor market and enabling apprentices to make seamless transitions from education to work. The program is designed to enhance the employability of apprentices through the acquisition of relevant skills, personal development, and recognized qualifications in an art, craft, trade, profession, or other field of endeavor. It is hoped, Madam Speaker, that the employability of young people and the access by them to quality jobs will be accompanied by improvements in their qualifications. I support this legislation. It is important to support efforts to help our young people find productive work. Madam Speaker, as in many other countries, the economy has generally rebounded after the difficult pandemic period. Contrary to the false propaganda by the PLP, this recovery began under the FNM. But there is so much more we have to do in order to extend opportunity to more of our people. The economy is now growing at near pre-pandemic levels. However, the Bahamas National Statistical Institute recently revealed that 2023 real GDP growth was 2.6%, which was significantly down from the IMF's projection of 4.3%. And further, the Inter-American Development Bank recently observed in its 2024 to 2028 country strategy report, I quote, "Overall, the macroeconomic situation of the Bahamas is at a critical juncture." The IDB emphasized, although the tourism sector rebounded strongly in 2022 and 2023, is exhibiting a tourism boom, there are external headwinds and major central bank raise interest rates. and key global economies experience slower growth, end quote. We must put the tourism numbers in context, including in the light of the crime warnings to tourists. Madam Speaker, this is important because the economy has a direct impact on this apprenticeship bill. If there's no employment, you can't hire anybody. No one can come on board in terms of being an apprentice. There are many tourists disembarking from cruise ships. And the cruise ships don't come through the airport, as the Prime Minister stated. They still come through the port. But how many of them are spending money, and how much are they spending, and where are they spending? These are the related tourism statistics Bahamians want to hear from the government. What is the correlation between the increase in departure taxes and spending by tourists in the general economy? Let me put it this way. While the volume of cruise passengers has gone up dramatically, how much is this translating into expenditure for Bahamian businesses? Many businesses, such as small vendors, retailers, shops, tour and taxi drivers, and others, are not really feeling and seeing an increase in revenue, given the rise in the number of cruise passengers. And yes, the growth in the economy has helped push joblessness down. However, we still have chronically high unemployment among our young people. In the May 2023 Labor Force Survey, it was noted that unemployment for young men was 19.2%, and for young women, the figure was 18.2%. A well-organized and well-funded apprenticeship program could help drive down youth unemployment over time. I repeat, a well-organized and well-funded apprenticeship program could help drive down youth unemployment over time. I stress well-organized and well-funded. Legislation alone is insufficient. Talk is insufficient. Public relations is not enough. The government likes to talk big and then do very little. How will this legislation be put into effect? When the FNM was in office, we created a Small Business Development Center, and we funded the center with tens of millions to help small business. Madam Speaker, we had the Over the Hill program, which created jobs and could subsequently help with apprenticeship programs. The Over the Hill program declared that certain zones were tax-free. 49 individuals at that time were funded. 49 were funded to the tune of $129,419. And those 49 individuals created 142 jobs and could have expanded even further. And they generated $4.8 million from the one. This is not statistics, this is facts. Go read. You don't need to read. Madam Speaker, that program and subsequently individuals would have lost their job. As the program was stopped, the Over the Hill program was stopped by the government. The Financial Secretary made a statement that the benefits within the Over the Hill program you can still retrieve or obtain via the tariff code. Madam Speaker, I have the tariff code here, and at the end I will table to show that the Financial Secretary was incorrect. That program allowed No business license. There were no charge for business license. You brought in your materials for construction or expansion, duty-free. Once the car for the business was attached to the business, there was no duty for the car. This is only through the over-the-hill incentive program, of which you stopped. You stopped. Then, Madam Speaker, the business sector are screaming today their businesses are being impacted, so they cannot participate in any apprenticeship program with the stress that they're going through. Madam Speaker, business license was paid yesterday on post revenue. It was post-paid. Now they want post and prepaid. They want you to submit a projection of what you anticipate your revenue to be the following year, so you pay for this year and the following year. That's double. Double. How does that affect especially the small man whose business license may only be $200? You're asking him to pay $400. He cannot afford that. And Madam Speaker, businesses have called me. In order to get their vehicle license, they must present their business license. The problem they face, Madam Speaker, they paid their business license, but they have not gotten their business license, and as a result, because the car vehicle is a part of the business, they cannot license their vehicle. This is bad for business. This is bad for business. Individuals can be dismissed. This will gravely affect the apprentices program. But, Madam Speaker, the deficit, $131 million projected. The Financial Secretary say that deficit will greatly decrease. But, Madam Speaker, let's listen to why he states that the deficit will be less. Why? Because he's projecting a $50 million revenue take on the sale of Bahamians' homes and businesses because of delayed or lack of paying real property tax. Why? Individuals have come to me and asked, why can't they just allow us to go into a payment plan? But no, the $50 million is projected because you're taking away from these poor Bahamians. Then their money is projected because they were anticipating great returns on the fees that were being charged on boat regulation. And Madam Speaker, you know the boat regulation fees had to be reduced in this Parliament just 2 weeks ago. So that revenue that they had anticipated obviously must now be decreased. Then, Madam Speaker, a part of that projection, oh, gee. Baptize. That's all right. Hold that clock. Baptize. David, stop that clock. Did the speech get read? No, man, no. No. That's up here. Speech up here. All right. Thank you. Don't start the clock yet. Thank you very much, Mr. Rashad. You're a good man. You should get a raise for that. So, Madam Speaker, they're projecting that the deficit would decrease. Why? Because they're making you today pay business license twice. Postpaid and prepaid. Prepaid. So you're paying in advance. That's the projection. That's why they're anticipating that the deficit would decrease. But no, the deficit will increase. But, Madam Speaker, because of all the stress on the businesses, they run the risk of laying off individuals. They run the risk of closing. They run the risk of decreasing their businesses. This is the pressure that this government is putting on the businesses, which will affect the same apprenticeship program that we're talking about. It will affect it. Madam Speaker, when we speak about the Small Business Development Center, the monies that we had put aside to ensure that small businesses can be established, this is the kind of commitment that is needed to make the promises of this legislation a greater reality. The International Labour Organization notes, and I quote, "Quality apprenticeships based on a robust regulatory framework and social dialogue can contribute to lowering youth unemployment rates, reducing skills mismatch, and enhancing the productivity and competitiveness of enterprises." Historically, apprenticeships have been considered primarily as a means of facilitating the school-to-work transition for young people. It went on, however, in the context of a fast-changing world of work, the apprenticeship model is empowering both youth and older workers to acquire new skills, reskill, and upskill throughout their work lives, end quote. Madam Speaker, it is essential for there to be more robust interventions by policymakers to help our young people. For years and years, we have seen the poor results from our educational system. This is especially the case with our young men. The IDB Group Country Strategy 2024 through 2028 for the Bahamas spoke to the challenges we face with education. The report indicated that many of our children who come out of the public education system are failing to acquire the minimal expected competencies, including in the basic core disciplines of English and math. The report added, in addition, the extremely low level of learning in science and math indicates that Bahamian students currently do not have the skills necessary to prepare themselves to be successful in the field of science and technology. Furthermore, the education system does not equip the students with 21st century skill. It went on, academic shortcomings start showing up in primary school and are not effectively tackled early on, which has a cumulative effect through time, end quote. The crime problem we face is directly related to our inability as a people to properly ensure that there are robust systems in place to transition young people, and especially boys, successfully into adulthood through productive activities. Scores of young people, scores of young men have stopped looking for jobs. They are no longer being counted in the unemployment numbers. This is a collective moral, social, and economic failure by all of us. This is not the responsibility of the Minister of Education. This is a failure by all of us. Our murder count has nearly tripled over the last 20 years. The issue of crime is threatening our tourism industry, our tourism economy, with warnings going out around the world indicating that our largest population center is not safe. While I support this bill, Madam Speaker, I do not think this administration is living up to what it promised in its manifesto when it comes to youth development. In point 6 of the Blueprint for Change, the PLP pledged a, quote, revolution in education, end quote. No one has seen this revolution yet. We are still waiting. In an August 15th, 2011 national address, then opposition leader Perry Christie solemnly promised, quote, we intend to double our investment in education over the next 5 years. We need better quality education for all our children, starting at the very beginning, end quote. The PLP, Madam Speaker, utterly failed in this promise. And it was under my administration that we began to significantly boost opportunities for preschool. In point 7 of the PLP blueprint, they promised a progressive youth agenda. No one has seen that yet. We are still waiting. Madam Speaker, the amount of money that has been spent on luxury travel and living by the Prime Minister could have been invested in a progressive youth agenda. We know that the Prime Minister's priorities really are, in this context, sadly, the Davis administration cannot even get its story straight as to the purchase of the Prime Minister's new car. One official says it was purchased. Another says it was leased. The two things can't be true at the same time. The Bahamian people, Madam Speaker, still don't know the whole story. When the administration can't even acquire a car without controversy, there is little hope we will see revolutions in education or new progressive youth programs. Madam Speaker, my administration believed in young people. I personally believe in young people. We made tuition free. We made tuition free for qualifying students at University of Bahamas and BTVI. Madam Speaker, in addition to that, every student coming from the Family Island to University of Bahamas or BTVI was given $500 per month to assist with their accommodation. That was the policy of my administration. Madam Speaker, as a result, we've seen a 4-fold increase of individuals becoming certified at BTVI. We've seen full employment at BTVI. And we've seen a 4-fold increase in dual enrollment. The Minister of Education knows what I'm talking about. Dual enrollment. I don't fight you. We launched a major preschool initiative enabling thousands of children to go to preschool, while also creating many new preschool opportunities. Madam Speaker, there was a voucher program. We recognized that we did not have sufficient preschools within Bahamas. And therefore, we gave the private preschools some up to $225,000 to expand, renovate, or make changes to their respective schools, grants, and admit some of the government preschoolers, and they were given $2,000 per year vouchers. As a result of that, the numbers subsequently increased. We recognize that the Family Islands could not be excluded. They too need preschool education. And as a result of that, we had offered that once you had the knowledge and the skill to establish a preschool, you would be given a grant, you would be given land to commence, to build your preschool, all duty-free, tax-free, etc., in addition to that $2,000 for every student that you admit into that school. That's what we did for our people. And what is the benefit of preschool, Madam Speaker? The IDB has shown that preschool has the best outcome for financial and social benefits. The best. Madam Speaker, as a result of preschool, crime, the benefits are decreased crime. The benefits are increased jobs and increased leadership. The benefits are decreased social welfare. The benefits are increased self-support. The benefits are decreased in juvenile delinquency. And the benefits are decreased in pregnancy rate. Madam Speaker, we created the Small Business Development Center that provided funding to many entrepreneurs, including young Bahamians. We supported young Bahamians with our actions and deeds. The failings of our current education system are not the fault of one political party. I repeat, the failings of our, I speak facts, the failings, Madam Speaker, I would love to see, I honestly would love to see the day when three ministries, and I've said this publicly before, when three ministries would be moved away from politics: education, health, and security. Those three are very, very important for the survival of this country. Madam Speaker, there are national failings that we all must own up to as a people. That is, it is for the administration of the day to do all it can to uplift our people. It is for the administration of the day to find every dollar it can to invest in young people. That is why many in the country and we in the opposition are so disgusted by the Prime Minister's wasteful habits. That money he uses to tour the world in first class, staying in expensive luxury suites, could be used to invest in youth program. Instead, he stopped the program for over-the-hill tax-free zone where individuals were creating jobs, improving revenue, business license free, real property free. But you've taken that away from the over-the-hill community. Madam Speaker, the PLP waste could be better spent. Allow me to quote from the most recent IDB country strategy. I am not quoting the report to blame anyone. I am quoting the report to note what we have to do together to improve opportunity and outcomes for our children and for our young people. The IDB had suggested the challenges before us are enrollment in non-compulsory pre-primary education, ages 3 and 4, has increased in recent years due to a Ministry of Education voucher program, $2,000 per year, that allows parents to send their children to private early childhood centers. Consequently, enrollment increased from 11.4% in 1999 to 34.5% in 2018. It went on, however, the pre-primary enrollment rate is low compared to other small Caribbean countries, which report gross enrollment rates around 80%. In addition, public provisions at this level of education remains low. School enrollment for both primary and secondary education has decreased in the last decade. Net enrollment for primary education fell from 80.4% to 74.2%, while for secondary education, it dropped even further from 79.8% to 62.5%. Data from BGCSE examinations in grade 12 show that many students from public secondary schools are failing to acquire the minimal expected competencies, including in the basic core disciplines of English and math. It went on, this trend is also observed in earlier grades. The results of the BJC examinations in grade 9 show that from 2016 to 2020, an average more than 30% of the students sitting for the exams failed to achieve the expected competency level in the subjects. Madam Speaker, let us work together to improve the quality of education and training for our young people, for our young Bahamians. I support this legislation as a step in the right direction. The challenge is whether the necessary measures will be put in place to realize the potential of this legislation. I thank you, Madam Speaker.